Welcome to our first ever two-part webinar series with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. I am Jennifer Rzuski, NAR Vice President and Executive Director for the Center for Specialized Realtor Education. We are so happy that you, our SRES designees, are with us today and that you are able to listen to this webinar and take advantage of some very valuable tools and content that you can take and use with your older clients. During this webinar, you will receive a lot of valuable information, and this information in this webinar will be made available to you, and that will be through the Member Center at the SRES website, and that is sres.realtor. Once you log in and you're in that Member Center, please spend some time, get to know your resources in there, especially there's some really great consumer one-sheets, and that is marketing material that you can use for your older clients, and it really helps with your marketing efforts. This 30-minute webinar is designed to introduce you to CFPB and their Office of Older Americans. If you have questions, please feel free to email us at sres@nar.realtor. Please put in the subject line CFPB, and we will make sure that we get you an answer to your question. Be sure also save the date, write it down right now, put it on your calendar for the second part of this webinar series, and that will take place on May 18th. The topic of the second part, it will be on reverse mortgages with CFPB. Now let's get started with this webinar. I'm going to toss it over to Erin Scheithe with CFPB. Hi, Erin. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much, Jennifer. It is really a pleasure to be with you all here today. And I am really looking forward to sharing some resources from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Now, I have a coworker who's going to be sharing some other resources with you, and I may encourage you to register for that webinar and view that webinar as well. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, we are going to talk about a few resources that we have at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. But first, I have to make a brief disclaimer. This presentation is being made by a CFPB representative on behalf of the CFPB. So today I'm not giving you any legal interpretation, guidance, or advice, and any opinions that are stated by me are my own and may not represent the CFPB's views. Also, we use this slideshow as supporting a live discussion. So as such, it does not necessarily represent the entirety of our discussion. So now that that is taken care of, let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. First, I'll give you a little bit of background on the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. We'll talk about who we are and what we do. We'll talk a little bit about how we like to hear from consumers, how you as a consumer or your clients may be able to submit a complaint. And then I'll close with some resources that you can use to protect your finances, not only during the pandemic, but tools that you can use for different life stages. So first, we're going to talk about the CFPB. We are a U.S. government agency that makes sure banks, lenders, and other financial companies treat you fairly. I'm going to stick pretty close to my slides for the next couple because I want to make sure I get these right. The CFPB is a 21st century agency, and we really say that because we were created during the 21st century. We are a relatively new federal agency. The Dodd-Frank Act that passed in July of 2010 is the law that created our agency, and that law was drafted and passed in response to the 2007-2008 financial crisis. The CFPB opened its doors in 2011, and we have been serving consumers since that time. So what we do is we help consumer finance markets work by making rules more effective, by consistently and fairly enforcing those rules, and by really empowering consumers to take more control of their economic lives. Now, how we do that, we really have three different ways that we do that. We empower. You see here a little image of a toolbox. So we create tools. We answer questions from consumers, and we provide you with tips to navigate your financial choices and shop for the right mortgage, the right car loan, the right bank account that will work best for you. So we're giving you tools for your toolbox. We also enforce rules. So we examine and supervise financial institutions, and I'll tell you a little bit more about who we regulate. But we do that. We take action against predatory companies and predatory practices that violate consumer financial protection laws. And we've already returned billions of dollars to consumers. And lastly, we educate. And this is really the piece that I'm going to be talking to you from today. We encourage financial education and capability from childhood all the way through retirement. We publish research, and we also educate the financial companies who we regulate about their responsibilities to consumers. I'm coming to you from CFPB's Office of Consumer Education. Our mission is to create opportunities for people to make choices about their money that help them better reach their life goals. Our vision really within the Office of Consumer Education is that all consumers, regardless of age, regardless of any other situation they're part of, whether they're limited English proficient, whether they are older adults, service members, people who are coming back into society after an incarceration, we want all consumers to have the skills, access to tools, timely information, and financial products to make financial decisions that really meet their needs. I mentioned a couple of special populations, as we call them. So some of those special populations are older Americans, service member and veterans, also students and young consumers. The law that created the CFPB said you must cater specifically to these special population groups. So we are in the law, the Office for Older Americans. We are supposed to serve really anyone who is forward looking at retirement, but our main goal is to really serve those who are 62 years old and older living in this country. And we engage in research, policy, and educational initiatives that are designed to not only help protect older consumers from financial harm, but to help them make sound financial decisions as they age. And we do that primarily by providing stakeholders with tools that will help older adults achieve and maintain long-term financial security. You can really learn a little bit more about us at our website, which is consumerfinance.gov/older Americans. And so just like the Older Americans Office, we have sister offices for service members and veterans. For students and young consumers, they focus a lot on student loan issues and paying for college. And then we also really try hard to focus on traditionally underserved communities, minority and ethnic groups, as well as limited English proficient folks in this country, and any others who may have been traditionally underserved by the traditional financial markets. So let's talk a little bit about hearing from consumers. Because we regulate the financial services industry, because we supervise and enforce banks, credit unions, credit card companies, mortgage servicers, we also know that there are times when people have issues with the financial products and services that they're using. And so we invite those consumers who have had issues with either their bank, their credit union, a debt collector. We invite you to submit a complaint. If you are having a hard time getting that financial services company to respond to you, submit a complaint to us and we can help you get a resolution to your issue. So go to our website, consumerfinance.gov, and you can submit a complaint. It's right there on the screen, so you can see it here. Submit a complaint, and you can either call or fill out an online form. You can also help others who maybe wouldn't be able to do it themselves. You do have to get their permission first, but there is a portion of the complaint form that addresses that. So if you have a senior client who says, I'm having a really hard time with my mortgage servicer, I'm not very internet savvy, what do I do? You could help them submit that complaint. And you'll see here on the screen the different types of complaints that we accept. And this is a timeline for when we started accepting them. So we came right out of the gate when we opened our doors in July of 2011, accepting complaints about credit cards. And we added mortgages to that because we know that those two issues are big contributors to the 2007-2008 economic crisis. And then we added several other types of complaints along the process. So in the past several years, we've added federal student loan servicing and marketplace lending. For those of you not familiar with that term, that could be something like an upstart or lending club, some of these like peer-to-peer loan companies. And we also accept complaints about virtual currencies as well. So if you got in on that Doge cryptocurrency thing that happened a couple months ago, like I did, if you had an issue with that, we would accept a complaint about that as well. So that's a little bit about how we hear from consumers. And I think what's important to note about that is that we want to hear from you. We want you to submit complaints, you yourself, in your personal capacity. We want your clients to submit complaints if they've had issues, because looking at the trends and analyzing those complaints helps us determine where there are gaps in consumer education. So if we get a ton of complaints about overdraft fees, then we know we're not doing enough to address how to avoid overdraft fees. Or if we get a lot of complaints about long wait times during the coronavirus pandemic, when you're trying to call your mortgage servicer to request forbearance, then we'll know that we need more resources around forbearance, and we need to make sure that mortgage servicers increase the number of maybe callers they have answering consumers' questions, that kind of thing. So it helps us know where to focus our resources. And we do have coronavirus resources on our website. If you go to our website, consumerfinance.gov, you will find resources in English, Spanish, Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, and Tagalog. We have a lot of short videos that are really specific to different financial issues you might be facing. So if you are concerned about mortgage forbearance, if you're concerned about what to do if you're a renter and you're having trouble, you can watch these videos and find out a little bit more about that issue. And I'm referring to you throughout this. I know that I think probably most realtors are more financially savvy than the average American consumer. But I always share these resources just in case there are areas where you may need a little more education, or where you can share this information with your children, friends, family, your aging parents, or anyone else who you might come into contact with, including those clients of yours. We have printer-friendly PDFs in Asian languages, as well as the MP3 audio files. So if you have a client who doesn't speak English well, but has a question or concern, check our website and see if we have something that might be able to help them out. We paired together with the Federal Housing Finance Agency, the Housing and Urban Development Department, as well as the Veterans Affairs Department to come together and discuss the really mortgage crisis that has come from this pandemic. So we are the Unified Housing website host. So when you come to our website, CF or consumerfinance.gov/housing, you'll see this page in front of you. And we have, again, resources in the form of video, as well as just simple answers to your questions. We also have a lot of resources for older adults. Many older adults are confused about the vaccination, maybe the registration for that, or they're getting questions about scams related to the COVID-19 crisis. They might be getting scams about their vaccine record if they've already been vaccinated. So we've got a lot of resources on our website to help people avoid scams, including government imposter scams, sweetheart scams, romance scams, which have really peaked during the pandemic as people are really longing for that connection. Romance scammers hopped right on that train and have been really engaged in that. We also have tips for financial caregivers, online and mobile banking tips, information about planning your finances for what is truly an uncertain future for all of us, as this pandemic has demonstrated. And then again, protections for renters as well. I'm going to just quickly run through the next couple of slides. We do have help for people who need it if they're having trouble paying their bills. The first thing to say is that you should have a full and complete picture of your financial situation at the ready, and you must contact your lenders, loan servicers, creditors, credit reporting agency. They don't know that you need help until you tell them. Unfortunately, they won't be able to see your balance shrinking in your savings account and know that you need mortgage forbearance or you need a little extra time to pay. So you'll have to contact them about that. We also, again, just showing you some of the videos and other resources that we have. And if you don't know, of course, forbearance is when your mortgage servicer or lender allows you to temporarily either pause your mortgage payments or pay at a lower rate. And then those payments are usually added to the end of your mortgage. So it is complicated, as many of you know. So definitely check out our website. Okay. Now I want to talk to you all a little bit about resources for consumers aside from the coronavirus pandemic-related resources. We have other resources for consumers on our website. So this is a screenshot of our website. When you come to it and click on consumer education, this menu pops up. We have about 11 or so different money topics, or 13 maybe, money topics that will guide you, your clients, your young children, through several different money decisions that come up, several products and services that come up. For example, auto loans, debt collection, credit cards, mortgages, and reverse mortgages. So a good example of how you could use this is, let's say you have a client who comes to you and says that they're interested in buying their first home, and they have no idea what's involved with getting a mortgage. They know they were pre-approved for a certain rate, and that seems like a lot of money to them. Please, please, please share our resources with them. Directly send them to our mortgages page. There is a first-time home buyer tool on that page, and there are a lot of resources. We even have sample settlement statements and things to help them walk through that process. We have a resource called Your Home Loan Toolkit, which may be helpful to them. Now, since you all serve a lot of older adult clients, you may hear someone say, I'm thinking about downsizing, but I'm thinking about a reverse mortgage, maybe to finance the purchase of a new home, or maybe they call you because, of course, we know that realtors are key members of their community. And often when you make a relationship, when you develop a relationship with your realtor, and you live in the home for a while, you might come back to that realtor and say, I bought this house 10 years ago. Now I'm thinking about a reverse mortgage to get a little bit of income for myself during retirement. And maybe you're not an expert in reverse mortgages. You can send them right to our website. And I don't want to give away too much about reverse mortgages because that's the topic for our next webinar in this series. Even if you don't consider yourself an educator, I hope you do. Anyone who has an influence over the public has the ability to be an educator. But even if you don't consider yourself that way, I encourage you to click on that link because we have resources organized by audience there. That's where you'll find our older adult resources, but you can also find resources for other special populations that I've mentioned earlier throughout the webinar. The Office for Older Americans specifically focuses a lot on reverse mortgage resources because those loans are really restricted to those who are 62 and older. We have a really great video, a discussion guide. We have a brand new resource that my colleague is going to share with you when she does her companion webinar. So I'll just tell you to go to our website to find some of these resources if you're looking for a sneak peek. If you or someone you love needs financial caregiving, or if you are a financial caregiver for someone, or you're kind of considering that as this pandemic has reminded a lot of us that things can happen that we are not expecting, might be a good idea to take a look at one or maybe a couple of these different guides and see if something here might resonate with you. The Managing Someone Else's Money series is really help for financial caregivers that are in a formal capacity. We call that a fiduciary role. And this could be an agent under a power of attorney, guardians and conservators, trustees, or government fiduciaries like a Social Security rep payee or a VA rep payee. These guides really walk financial caregivers through their duties, make sure they know how to act in someone's best interest. And stay tuned for May, because we actually have a new resource that will be coming into this series that will help people choose a financial caregiver and help people decide what type of financial caregiver would work best for them. We also have the Money Smart for Older Adults program. This is an awareness program that we developed in collaboration with another bank regulatory agency called FDIC. They're the people who insure your money up to $250,000. So you've probably seen member FDIC at your bank. We worked with them to create a resource that is an instructor-led curriculum that is really a scam, fraud, and financial exploitation awareness program. If you are really comfortable with speaking in public, if you are interested in kind of a new leadership activity or a new service project, might I suggest that you lead a Money Smart for Older Adults seminar for your older clients. You can do it virtually. We have a PowerPoint slideshow. We have an instructor guide that literally walks you through it word for word. And then we have resource guides. Even if you are not interested in leading a Money Smart for Older Adults seminar for your older clients, I encourage you to make a bulk order of these resource guides. Having a resource guide in front of you is almost like having an encyclopedia, remember those, an encyclopedia of different scams, fraud, and types of financial exploitation. So for an older adult to receive this resource guide is super helpful. They can look up different scams and frauds. They can look into whether or not they think maybe their financial caregiver is exploiting them. So it's a truly a good resource to have on the shelf for older adults, for anyone really. It's available in English and Spanish, and I've mentioned that we have a few things available for bulk order, so I'll share more information about that in just a moment. If you have, back when we could meet in person, and we will get there again at some point. You may have had events for your clients. I know my realtor had an annual client appreciation event party that was super fun to attend. And if you have clients who are older, even if they're not, you might want to share some of our fraud prevention placemats, handouts, activity sheets. We have bookmarks and table tents, posters, and things that you can either easily print off or order in bulk, as I keep alluding to. Originally, we worked with the Meals on Wheels America group to create these as placemats that could be used in a congregate meal setting or a meal delivery service. But when we looked at the orders, we noticed that a lot of people were ordering these who we were not expecting, like banks, like libraries, like area agencies on aging. And so we suggest that people use these just as another fraud prevention handout. And as I mentioned, they're available for bulk order, they're available to download, and just anyone can order these. And they're a really great resource, available in English and Spanish. And we have 16 different resources. So there's one on romance or sweetheart scams. There's one on identity theft. There are word games like a word search or crossword puzzle. So there are some good ones, and I encourage you to check those out at consumerfinance.gov/placemats. If you or your clients are wondering when to claim your Social Security retirement benefits, we have an easy-to-use interactive tool that will walk people through that process. It was created with the support of the Social Security Administration, and it really takes into consideration different factors that make up who you are, whether you're married or not, whether you're still working, and when you might claim those benefits. We can claim them as early as 62, but often it makes sense to wait until at least full retirement age, which is now for most people 66 or 67. And beyond that, you can even delay up to age 70 and earn additional money. And this is something to think about as we all end up on fixed incomes unless we never stop working full time. So many of us will use that Social Security benefit as one of the 3 legs of our stool, right? Savings, maybe if you're lucky, an employer provided pension, and then this Social Security benefit. So we want to make those legs as strong as possible. This gives you some good tips for how to do that. And then we have different tips and advice handouts on a variety of other topics as well on our website. And as I mentioned our website to you a couple times, consumerfinance.gov/older Americans. We're in the process of cleaning it up a little bit in preparation for Older Americans Month. So bear with us. If you can't find something, just email me and I will send you to the right place. But I mentioned these bulk orders. Because we are a federal agency, nothing that we do is copyrighted and everything is free and available to the public. So we have a website, consumerfinance.gov/order. And when you go to that site, you can add different publications in a variety of quantities, everything from 5, 10, 25 to 500, 1,000. You can add these different resources to your cart, just like you're checking out at an online store, only it's free. We don't charge you for shipping or anything. So if you are interested in kind of leveling up and offering a new resource to your older clients, I suggest either that Money Smart for Older Adults resource guide or some of those fraud prevention handouts, placemats, word games. That would really be a cool way to kind of close your deal. I know many real estate professionals give a little gift at the end of a transaction. And what better gift is there than financial protection resources? And then they're free too. So I encourage you to check those out. And that'll do it for my presentation. I have really enjoyed sharing our resources with you. In the CFPB Office for Older Americans, we are here to help you, to help older adults navigate their finances as they age. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I really appreciate the time today. Thank you so much for having me.